anybody standing in the way of what I dream for. How could you ignore the ones that are voiceless, scream from the poor? They only hear the score.
Hi guys, welcome to my channel, or this video anyway. I'm making this video to expose all the stuff I found the other day about Ekko, having much more stronger feelings for Jinx than we all thought, and I'll also talk about Jinx and Ekko background story, and a few stuff from the games that Arcane fan might not know about. First of all, let me tell you that this is the first time ever that I record a voiceover video, so it's not like I had the adequate equipment and all, so I was too lazy to record my voice. But anyway, it's not like my voice is relevant here, what's important is facts. Yeah, that's what we all crave for after this show. Damn character facts. Anyway, let's dive right into it, shall we? Timebomb discoveries, Jinx x Ekko story, background, Ekko's wall Jinx obsession discoveries and analysis. Or how I discovered proofs that no, Ekko did not just have a slight crush on Jinx. The guy's fucking obsessed in love with her for years. Oh, and his wall is full of Jinx in every perspective possible. There's like more than 30 of her in it. Except for Ajuna. There's one painting of Ajuna. And 30-something Jinxes. Yeah, you heard me. 30. I really hope we get a glimpse of everything that stayed deliberately silenced between them in Arcane Season 2 and upcoming LoL games, cause hell, I ma shoot some bullets if they don't. Especially now that I discovered they've been working on Arcane, even before releasing Ekko's introduction video 4 years ago. Ekko's introduction video actually contains lots of Arcane references, and countless Jinx Ekko hidden paintings, so this Ekko cinematic video was definitely important for Riot in the story they wanted to tell in the next few years, but most of all, it is really important to Jinx's character, and the way they wanted to imply her past story with Ekko. And even the Arcane promos were hiding strong Jinx Ekko hints. I mean, look at all the music videos giving us damn Season 1 and Season 2 teasers, Enemy, Giants, KDA, featuring rappers representing Ekko, giving us damn hints on all the Ekko saw Jinx coming way before everyone, with slight short visuals that you might just miss if you don't watch the video in slow motion. It's like they've been playing with our minds all over again, and I just love that. Even the way the rappers' lyric have been feeding us damn Timebomb hints both for Season 1 and Season 2, just make me thrilled to think about the music they'll come up next for Arcane Season 2 promo, because I'm pretty sure it will again hide many hidden messages. But anyway, even with all that, they've only gave us so little in Season 1, when they've been teasing the depth of their relationship since years before Arcane, and like I will show you later, this wall implies lots of things, and answers all those questions we might wonder about the time-lapse, and whether Jinx and Ekko met during their teenage days. So seeing everything that I've found, I've gotta hope they've been working on Season 2 when we didn't know about it, just like they did for Season 1, and that they've been keeping the best Timebomb shit for what's next.
I had a crush. Until you started talking to the gun.
So, we all know Ekko had a crush on Jinx, at least that's what he said in the game, while taunting enemy Jinx. But hey there, little man, sorry for you, but I saw right through your little I don't mind about you anymore shit show.
Can't hide your weak spots from me.
But seriously, look at him. There's nothing small about this man now. If you see what Ekko doesn't just have a crush on Jinx. The guy's fucking obsessed with her, for years. And I'm gonna show you how I discovered Riot's been deliberately hiding facts about it this whole time, and hiding the fact they've been working on Arcane for ages too. Probably even before they launched Ekko's cinematic intro video, and I will show you all that with proof, don't worry. First of all, when Ekko came up with this phrase in the game, everyone wondered if he'd been talking about her looks, or if they knew each other before, especially cause of his other sentence towards ally Jinx, which was Powder. Never mind when we didn't even know Jinx's real name was Powder then, but now that we know they surely shared a past, a story and a complicated but bonding childhood, there's something even more interesting about this quote, and that Arcane Season 1 slightly points out at parts. I'm pretty sure they'll develop all these shadow areas in Season 2. Seeing how LoL producers are just so fond of torturing us with hints, hidden messages, and untold secrets. See what they've done with Vi and Jinx since day one, or even Vi and Caitlyn.
Settle down, sister. You think I'm crazy? You should see my sister.
People wondered for years whether Vi and that crazy braided blue-haired chick were relatives, and Riot's been taunting us with only a few lines from Bloody Merchants, enemies, matching parallel backgrounds for Vi and Jinx on the official arts, or even just opposite colors, and even there, people seriously wondered. So don't come and tell me now that they don't like hiding messages and spoilers in their artworks. Cause they've been playing with our sanity for years. So back to that quote in Arcane, we might wonder one pretty important thing about Ekko and Jinx now, seeing how Powder was taken in by Silco. Did they or did they not? And if they did, how and when? Me during their teenage days, while Jinx was under Silco's care, and Ekko probably working on his idea of the Firelights gang? The answer is surely yes. First, cause the guy heard her talking to the guns. So it's definitely cause he saw her before those fights we saw in Arcane. Either if we don't know if the crush he's talking about happened during childhood or their teenage days, but I think it just continued anyway after childhood. But either way, wasn't surprised hearing her talking to herself in Arcane, even if she doesn't talk to the guns directly in season 1, but that will probably come up in season 2, since we saw Fishbones at the end of season 1. Not to mention the fact the first appearance of Jinx as an adult got the Firelight saying,
"Oh no, she's here."
Secondly, and that's more proof that he saw Powder, who become Jinx, start losing her shit, cause of what he says to Vi in the Firelight's hideout.
What were you doing with Jinx?
Her name is Powder.
That was a long time ago. People change.
Yeah, I'm getting that.
When Vi's saying that she wants to reach out to her sister, and that she's still in there and blah blah blah, Ekko tells her that she's not anymore, and the fact he called her Jinx so naturally made me immediately think that he saw her before the fights, had some kind of chat with her.
The Firelights were a target, and most are dead.
It wasn't a mishap. She froze up and lost her shit. I could have handled those brats.
And seeing how he's straightforward to Vi, I think he might have just been the one to try before her to reach out to Powder, but he came onto the realization that she was gone. It won't be something you just suggest to your mind without facts, like he'd ever abandon a friend without trying to see if that friend was really lost first. So, he definitely did try to bring her back, but failed. Just like he tried countless times to save his friend Ajuna, but failed. And that's where things got interesting. Perhaps, Ekko brought the time machine to perfection just for that, to try and bring back Powder, before she loses it. Cause he doesn't yet have it controlled in Arcane when he's a child. And seeing his speech on the League of Legends chase after Time official BD, he might just be talking about her, when he says he doesn't want Ajuna to become, yet another face on the wall, like it is yet, another lose second-minute moment of his own failures. And even the first line and scene of the BD is really interesting and matching Jinx Powder, but I'll come back to it later. So, that brings us to the painted wall in Ekko's official presentation cinematic video, which shows us his dead friend Ajuna, but most importantly, and that's something most people missed, shows just how much Ekko longs for Powder. And Jinx. Perhaps dissociating the Mappard in his mind and life as a Firelight leader, but certainly not in his heart, and here's how Riot again made a genius work of art, in all its terms. It means to show us that if you take a close look at all these shots, you'll see that they made the cinematic perfectly, so that we would see all those Jinxes. The way the Thunder Hextech parts them up in the beginning. The way Ekko's body or hair is nearly always hiding the only face that's not her. Ajuna's. As for us to understand and see, there's only Jinx that's keeping him going and fighting. In lots of on-purpose shots, they even intentionally points at those drawings and paintings for us to see all these parts of Jinx in Ekko's memory, and just like the wall breaks at the end and he stays and watches it fall to pieces in horror, he then rewinds time not to let that happen, showing how much he cares about it. And her. Still. Actually, the whole painting, the whole room, the whole cinematic, is made into a mastermind Rorschach art style. That is a common style used for arts on street walls, in graffiti as well, inside all the downtown street trend, and which matches perfectly with Jinx and Ekko's graffiti style. But damn. You wouldn't believe just how much of a piece of art this actually is, and I have a growing need to see this wall in real life, or meet its original artist or artists. We all saw Powder and Jinx on Ekko's wall, on the main right and left sides of it in the video. That was already something interesting regarding the fact we didn't know they shared childhood memories back at the time. So people wouldn't quite understand why this new hero might apparently hold on to that crazy chick bombing everything up. And that everyone despised, but when you take a closer look at it, not only will you see two other clear drawings of Powder, but you'll also see one other clear from Jinx. Oh, and sorry. Haha, my bad. Actually, the whole painting is fucking Powder and Jinx. And references to Arcane. Years before its announcement. It's just actually plenty drawings of Powder, teenager Pow Jinx, Jinx herself, but also, the whole painting except the one from Ajuna, is references to Powder, Jinx, Ekko's moments or fantasy with her as teenagers, or Ekko's feelings towards her. The only thing that isn't, is Ajuna. And also discarded in the rest of the room, some black and white pictures representing dead heroes in the game, but that aren't mentioned in Arcane, or also some vibe pics too, and they're not even clear enough in the video, because they didn't want to put the accent on that. That's one thing sure. There was way more than those heroes' pictures they wanted to imply for newcomer Ekko's backstory. So, at first, I have discovered 9 Powder Jinx clear paintings representations. And while checking the last time the evidence for this video, I just discovered a 10th one clear enough to be recognized by all. So 10 in total for the clear ones they probably thought everyone would see? Guys, doesn't it ring a bell? 10 fucking Jinx. To those of you who didn't know, 10x is Jinx's hero number. Just like Vi's is 6. Vi, and that's just the way Riot likes to play with their heroes and their fans. Jinx has countless representations of X on her, like on her clothes, graffiti and other stuff, but fun fact is that Ekko does too. He's got an X on his dreadlocks golden hair tie clip. He's also got an X painted on his finger. Even the firelight symbol is a Z, standing for his zero drive tech, and so on, but crossed with an X, as to make it look like a time sense symbol. But still, it's got an X anyway. But what's even more interesting is that Ekko also have this said letter crossed with the letter X on his chest, but they've been deliberately hiding it in Arcane, in every one of his shots. Just look at the way they've introduced grown-up Ekko. They had so many opportunities to show this mark on his chest, but they always only showed it partially, or while he was moving, so it was quite impossible for us to see or understand it was something else than a Z. But the moment he takes a bullet on the bridge, the camera then closes in on his chest, in a way that makes us clearly see an X, and not the firelight symbol, and we then see it clearly for the first time, while he's standing against Jinx and the X on her chest is matching his, until she turns on the side to fight him, and we can't see it anymore. Not to mention the double K turned one against each other in a mirror effect that gives us the letter X, if you match the 2 K lines like they did on the back of Ekko's jacket in the Giants music video. I didn't think that was relevant when I first discovered Riot's King Kong playing with Roman letters and heroes numbers, but when I saw 10 paintings of Jinx, when they really could only have made 2, or even 6, I knew that might just not be a coincidence. And let me add that the way those paintings were made are just complete genius work of art, because you might just have the need for an artistic soul and eye to see through them, since they're all perfectly think to be untangled and matched up together in a complete patchwork, and sometimes there's even more of it when you turn the picture upside down, and it just becomes one other painting of Powder Jinx, but I made screen caps edits and slow motions to help you see what I mean. Here comes the edit. Since I was obsessed with this wall, I've been checking it again these last few days. Insert nervous laugh. Damn, I can't with these guys. There are more. I've discovered 34 bloody Jinx and powders in total. There's even more when you turn the pictures in different angles or upside down. Everything about the wall is entangled in powder Ekko-Jinx references. I'll try not to miss any of them for you to see clearly what I saw, but I will expose all the ones I've found so far. Damn it, I'm at a loss of words for how beautiful this masterpiece is made, guys. Now I'm going to show you that this is not just hypothesis for those of you who hadn't realized the painting was full of powder and Jinx, and just think I'm delusional. Even the glowing lamps, representing the idea of a lost one, are disposed in a way that represents a feeling of hope, and they're mostly gathered, and all converge right onto the Jinx main painting on the left, showing just how much Ekko still cares for her, and hopes to get her back. The important thing about this whole cinematic and wall painting is Powder/Jinx, and I think Ajuna being the only other character there is just a reminder of Ekko losing Powder in the double bridge trauma he shares with her, and I explain all my thoughts about it in the whole written analysis below, so you can have a look at the link in the description if you're curious, but I'll just skip it here, because this video's already as long as it is. But regarding Arcane and all the Jinx x Ekko backstory, I think Ajuna was just there to hide the fact Ekko being attached to Jinx was the real important thing about this hero, like the real plot implies it, but that's just one of the many ways Riot liked to fuck with our minds. Because they wanted the Jinx x Ekko thing being kind of hidden till the reveal. Because truth be told, they just have been working on Arcane for a long time, and were already working on it when they released Ekko's video. Cause the paintings look exactly like Powder from Arcane. One painting is even showing the most important scene of Arcane on top of that. The Vi pictures look also like Arcane's Vi, and the Jinx ones have the same features, expressions, faces, clothes, movements, and even 3 fucking Arcane scenes in it, when the only Jinx we know at that time was that dead white slim zombie punk chick bombing things up like a crazy lunatic in the game and looked nothing like the awesome Jinx they brought up in Arcane. So yeah, I think they knew exactly what they were doing. And the Ekko x Jinx story is clearly important in the Arcane storyline, and Ekko, just like Vi, will be one of the important characters that will remind us of what Piltover's most wanted criminal Jinx was like before she really lost her shit and started talking to the guns and blowing everything and everyone just for fun. Now let's analyze these paintings, shall we? First and once again, this is not just hypothesis. Look at the way the developers made the different paintings stand out, with the hextic thunder energy, like they were deliberately showing us the forms we needed to see. But that's something you'll only see by looking at it in slow motion, making snapshots or really looking into it. And well, guess who did all that and even more? Not to mention I've been into this kind of art and artistic areas myself for decades. But who cares? I've been scrutinizing this painting in all ways possible. Rendering its contrast, luminosity, improving or reversing colors, zooming in and slow motionating it, and I just couldn't believe everything that I found. Even 10 powder Jinx representations is something, but I never thought it would be linked to Arcane 2, and most importantly, the fact that yes, Ekko was in love, and he represented himself 4 times looking at her with bewildered eyes, heart in his eyes, spying on her or blushing, and I discovered that Ekko spied on her with a firelight mask during her Jinx area, and that they definitely meet at some point in their teenage days. And perhaps, something happened between them at that time, but that, we'd have to wait to know I guess, but if that's true, I'm really wondering, if they hit an underlined perv hint to the I had a crush until you started talking to the gun. Then he insists on the guns. Ha. Original. Like yeah dude, I'm talking about your guns, not that time when we started fooling around and you talked to my bee. So at first glance, I saw Juna. Then Powder on the main painting on the right. Then Jinx on the left one, like everyone did, I guess. Then I thought I saw Clagger because of... duh. The goggles. But wanna know a secret? It's not him. It's Jinx. In an exact Arcane scene even. That realization made me realize there were a lot of paintings implying the fact that Ekko might have spied on Jinx countless times, and it's also implied in Arcane as well, the spying thing. But I'll show you later. For now, let's concentrate on the easy-to-see Powder and Jinx paintings. Number 1. So the easiest one is Jinx painting on the left. It's the easiest one to recognize, and the one that is the most put up front by the cinematic. What's interesting about this painting is that she's wearing Arcane clothes, sure, and Ekko even painted her braid, so it looks like an adult Jinx, but this painting, matching with all those lights as a sign of hope, is so much interesting cause she's represented smiling, genuinely smiling, and looking quite at peace while looking at the sky, and whether it's a scene Ekko has seen with his own eyes and holds on to, or the image of her he's wishing to become true, we can't know yet, but it's definitely not the killer Jinx we know and he thinks she'd become. Also, on that painting, I first thought she was holding her toddler, but at second glance, I realized there was a man expression on it, like bewildered by her beauty, and that's just the exact same way Ekko had represented himself in the other paintings, so perhaps, my eyes weren't wrong and there's another too much in love Ekko here, but the picture isn't clear enough to see clearly, so I won't say it is for sure, but let's say it's a possibility. Number 2, let's move on to the main Powder painting on the right. That one also caught my interest, because when I first thought it was a simple picture of young Powder, I realized first that she was looking kind of ridiculed by Ekko like he was mocking her, like their little games when they were children, always goofing around, making those kind of graffiti, like Jinx's monkey graffiti. Oh, and that just makes me realize that what Jinx is holding in the first painting do look like her monkey too, and I found it cute, how he reminded himself of her with that humoristic painting, like he reminded of the happy times, but then I realized it could look like a double-faced Powder Jinx, and I then realized the firebomb behind her. And then I discovered, one side of her face was Powder, a sad-looking Powder, and the other half of the face was smiling kind of deviously, looking more like a Jinx smile, and that's the side where the firebomb is also represented. But, and also, if you look differently at it, in another moment of the video which has different lighting, the firebomb also looks like Ekko blushing bright red too, with heart in his eyes, just like Powder used to do to her graffiti, and has all the time in her PTSD breakdowns, and just like Ekko represented himself in the main center painting. And so, I started to realize that through those paintings, they might just be implying the fact that Ekko saw Powder grow and change, while she was under Silco's care, and perhaps they'd meant for him to paint her like that. And perhaps, this double-faced painting, just represents his fear of losing her, the loss and hurt he felt seeing her change into something that terrified him. And at that thought, I started thinking that there could be so much things hidden into those paintings, if my thoughts were true, so I started digging like crazy. But I didn't even have to dig long, and my previous thought was confirmed by the painting I looked at just after it was the painting just below that one, on the same side, right. Number 3. On the painting just below the main Powder painting, next to the wooden board with pictures, and on which, if you ask me, is Hank Powder's leather bag in which she carried the hextons, and which she probably left behind during the explosion and that Ekko found, seeing how her monkey bomb from that day is there too near that wooden board and Ekko felt the need to expose it there. There's yet another painting with a girl screaming, and since I thought all the other paintings were other champions from the game I thought it could still be someone else, but then, I realized the blue hair, the pink colors, and most of all, Riot fucking with my mind again. For this painting, and for lots of others, it's all about perspective, and the exact moments or seconds of the seconds Ekko video. Whenever the picture is clearly shown, as for us to see it, there's a slight change of contrast, color, or shadowing on it, and every time you look at it, it shows powder. Teenage Jinx age, but with another expression, or in a whole-over point of view. Sometimes, it looks like she's in tears, and it looks like that time where Vi left her on the street. Some other times she just looks smiling childishly. Sometimes, we even feel like seeing Ekko 2 with yet another her, more adult version standing, drawn by the pink colors, in 3 different versions that can represent 3 different things, but most of all looks like seconds of one scene. But each time, Powder isn't the child Powder, but it's not quite Jinx either. Her hair isn't braided and is longer than Powder's, but way shorter than Jinx's. Sometimes they're tied in a ponytail and she's practicing fighting, boxing. Sometimes she's practicing alone, and sometimes another grown-up Ekko is there with her, wearing his Firelight's jacket, and as the video moves on, they seem to move along too with the changing contrast, light, and shadow movements. There's so many versions of her it's nearly impossible to keep up. It's so beautifully geniusly made, in a way that looks like we're having a glimpse of Ekko's many and complicated thoughts, memories and feelings, and perhaps, rewinds with his time machine that we don't know about yet. The bridge scene of them fighting makes me think of it. The way he always managed to escape her wrath during the fights. Perhaps they have had many encounters, many talks, many times he practiced against her and they fought, but she just doesn't know, and neither do we. Anyway, see for yourself the versions of this painting I found and interpreted, before we start going on to the next ones. Number 5. To keep on going with the easy ones, before we start moving to the 20 or so more scenes and references of them I've found, we'll come back to the main center paintings. Here we have a huge powder, and not any powder, not one that could have been invented 4 years ago for this cinematic, when they wanted to intend Ekko had a past with crazy chick Jinx, not one pre-sketched or anything. It's the powder from Arcane. And especially, the one from the scene where Vi grabs her jaws, and that is shown over and over in the show in Jinx's memories, while she's having PTSD breakdowns, so, one of the most important scenes that stroke her psyche, but also, should strike the watcher. And that is one more proof that Arcane was already ongoing at that time, and that they didn't release Ekko's introduction video without second thought on these paintings, for a show that came years after it. It's not only the Jinx on the left being exact Arcane's Jinx too, not only the powder being the one from Arcane, it's the exact same scene, and same goes for the next painting I realized, was the exact same scene as a scene from Jinx in the series. And it's the Get Jinxed one.
Happy Progress Day!
Number 6. That said, here comes back who I thought to be Clagger. Actually I realized way after starting examining the wall that this was Jinx, and not him. I was convinced that there was only a few Jinx and powders, one Arjuna, and one Clagger on the wall, at the beginning. I thought all the rest might have been other champions from the game. But then I thought to myself, if Clagger's here, there should have been Milo too, right? Since they're representing Ekko's lost one. But since I couldn't seem to find him, I realized I might be wrong about Clagger, and perhaps he was just one more representation of Jinx. And then I changed my perspective, and discovered it was Jinx after all, by following the style of the drawing, and therefore her hair, and most interesting thing, it's that it's the exact Jinx from the scene, Get Jinxed in Arcane. It's the Jinx playfully having fun on her own doing mechs. It's the exact same scene. Her movement, goggles, braids, golden butterfly, and she's even smiling the same and holding the tool. And you know what's even more funny? How the fuck would Ekko know that scene, unless he was there spying on her? And there, after having that thought, I realized there was one blushing and smiling Ekko next to her painting, who looks again like he's amazed by what he sees. Not only is he in love with her, but he secretly admires her wilderness, and most of all, her tech nerd side that is matching his. And to finish it all, I discovered yet another masked Ekko, spying with his Firelight's mask from Arcane, just beneath this Get Jinxed painting. Here are all the details I have found about this painting that matches the scene. Her flying hair, the googles, the lacets around her neck, her gloves, the tool in her hand, the little yellow butterfly under her, that represents the golden butterfly she's examining crafting in that scene. It's fucking writing Liar on her shoulder, the same way she wrote it for Silco on Sevika, when she tied her up to the ceiling. Like it's a damn reminder that this is Jinx. And also, there are 2 other paintings on the wall, of her in that same room enjoying her crafting time. So Ekko definitively knew the way to that cave, or whatever place that was. Since we could see it was deep, but most of all, open at the top, so reachable and anyway. Ekko's scenes taught us Ekko and his buddies are pros of the underground caves and tunnels. Number 6, 7, and 8. At first I thought this painting, the Get Jinxed one, represented a girl with short hair and mechanic outfit, when I realized it wasn't Clagger, so I thought it could still be another hero. But if you follow the style in which this particular painting was made, you can discover Jinx flying braids around her, beneath her, and then, on top of Ajuna's head. And just on top of that end of flying bread, is yet another beautiful adult Jinx painting. And next to that Get Jinxed painting, is yet another blue little powder painting, in which between the two paintings of her, Ekko represented a young version of himself, with bewildered, nearly heart eyes and blushing like crazy, but with a punk hair like his adult one, and colored too, like his hair's blushing too, and he might have found himself to be one more time that little boy finding her beautiful and skilled with crafting, matching it to the painting on the side, the Get Jinxed one, and now the fact that the girl seems to have mechanic outfit takes all its sense. And the fact that there's two different sides adult versions of Ekko surrounding it too. Under part of this painting is once again Ekko, with his firefly mask, spying, which is also represented by the bewildered eye in the middle of her chest, but it could also represent the speaker diffusing the music out loud that we see in the Get Jinxed scene though, so that represents an adult version of him looking at her, and the second one is on the right, clearly recognizable, looking kind of shocked and bewildered, but not in a bad way seeing how there's yet a fourth version of him smiling brightly, happily, just on top, and how there's a heart at the bottom too. So around this blue and clear soft young powder painting, we have a grown-up Get Jinxed being happy dancing with herself, and around those two perfect representations of her, are a total of 4 smiling, watching bewildered, blushing or spying, Ekko. And a heart. Oh, okay. Starting to be a lot, don't you think? Let's go back on number 7 for a sec. Let's go back to the beautiful Jinx picture on top of the wall, on top of Ajuna's face. Here it looks more like a teenage pre-adult Jinx, but her expression is both so soft and caring at some moments of the video, as sad and desperate on others, and it looks like Powder begging it by, but if it was Powder, the same Powder they showed on the 3 other paintings, her features would be a bit more chubby, and not as thin as this one. So I believe it to be either teenage Jinx, or adult Jinx. On that painting, in one particular shot of the cinematic, she looks exactly like she's having the same expression as the one they made her have in Enemy music video, where we can see a teaser for season 2, while she's letting go of Powder in the past, and becomes crazy Jinx with purple eyes and fishbones on her back. It's hard to tell, sometimes she also looks tempting and smiling, and like she's got the shimmer eyes, some other times she looks like she's desperate and crying, but still with the shimmer eyes, but either way we can see her blue hair, and it looks like there's a braid to the side, and it's her features and her smile and her mouth, but perhaps more young than the adult Jinx we know from Arcane. In any case, it's beautifully made, and it looks so much like the Arcane Jinx, that I can only imagine this scene will be in season 2, cause it doesn't look like any scene from season 1, and the painting is so beautifully made and pointed out, and standing out in the cinematic, for it not to be a scene they intend to make. Perhaps, it's a scene from their teenage days? I hope we get to see some flashbacks at the beginning of season 2. Number 9. Coming back to the clear blue powder painting I talked about earlier, the one in the middle of it all. It is indeed Powder, there's like no doubt about it. It is the exact Powder from Arcane. Next to this small version of it, Ekko has represented himself, young version too, but has also added his adult hair on top of it, and looks like he's blushing from head to toes, seeing how his hair is painted red. He has represented himself looking at her, and blushing like that. Here's a clearer pic of the two for you to see. Number 10. Now, let's go a little bit further below Ajuna, and we can see some weird paintings, that looks like a doll. Oh yeah, sure, it looks like a doll. But it's got braids, it's painted blue, and it's got Jinx clothes, a crop top and striped pink blue purple pants like her clothes from Arcane. So yet, another Jinx representation, near a blushing fucking too much in love Ekko. Number 11. Now, things get a little bit more tricky, and we're gonna have to zoom in and watch closely. See this picture, which is again a representation of Powder, screaming crying, which is the exact same representation as the painting from number 3 listed before. Number 12. Now here, in negative black and white colors, you can see Firelight Ekko on his hoverboard saying hi to a teen Jinx with untied long hair. Number 13. Here on the wall, we have a child Ekko with white hair, and already white paint on his face, and even though we can't really tell who's on his side, we guess, seeing how all the rest of the wall is Jinx, that it might be young Powder too, and more than this painting, there is also that exact same scene in a pic hang below. Number 14. I discovered this painting just recently, as I was analyzing the other paintings in that area, to try and identify where that blue color was coming from. It was actually Powder's hair. Here, on top of the Vi grabbing Powder's jaw scene, and next to the Jinx painting which I believe to be Teenage Jinx, we have Ekko and Powder talking to each other. Actually, all of this area represent the scenes from the accident in which Powder's monkey exploded, and what happened after it. For this Ekko Powder painting, I believe it to be the talk they had, and that I mentioned in my previous Jinx diary analysis video. The one they had in which Powder sent him away, and told him she was a Jinx. Because Ekko is represented as his young self, all in white, looking nearly like a skeleton, as what she told him might have made him feel like dying inside. We can see Powder facing him, with her back turned on us. Number 15. Jinx blue smoke clouds tattoos represented next to the Get Jinxed painting. Number 16. These symbols, next to the Get Jinxed painting, can both be Jinx singing, since it's the scene where she's listening to Get Jinxed song and dancing, or, since it's in the same room, the symbols could represent the scene in which we see her crafting the hexstick hexstone. Number 17. Gathering 3 pictures in one. I saw these ones really late, because I've been making the screen caps of the other paintings I found, when I kept seeing that red color coming back, and then I just knew there was something there, and I had to discover what it was. And indeed, there was yet another Powder drawing. Here, we have Powder's red eye, when she looks at Silco, after the scene where she thinks Vi abandoned her. This painting representation is indeed just next to the painting of that exact same scene. And fun fact is that when you look at it in another scene, where it's clearer, you can also see, by matching it with other elements, that it also not only gives Powder's red eye, but it becomes Jinx's face and mouth yet again, and it made me think of the scene on the bridge, just before she made her bomb explode. And there's more. Here comes another edit. When you turn it upside down once again, it just gives yet another painting of one of Jinx's firebombs, showing that yes, this is probably the scene they wanted to paint it out. It is just crazy how the more I look into these paintings and the cinematic, the more and more I found. I really have a growing need to meet the artist of these paintings. Number 18. When you turn the Get Jinxed picture upside down, the goggles then becomes 2 big frightened blue powder eyes, and a baby's face, representing the trauma of her childhood, with a toddler's hand. And the symbols I talked about above now represents the letter U, like a toddler's crying, and the triangles on the other side now represent rain. Number 19. When you turn the Powder picture of the top, next to Ajuna, the one representing the scene, where Vi grabs Powder's jaws after the incident, when you turn that picture upside down, and focus on the blue and white colors, it becomes Jinx lighting up the flare scene from Arcane. Think it's over? You're not ready for all that's left. Number 20. When you turn Ekko's young blushing face, and some other artistic decorations around in other paintings, you just realize it gives the shape of a heart. Number 21. Here we have yet another Powder. I can't quite know where it's from, but we can clearly see her bangs and chubby face, but her bangs look longer than in Arcane, and her body posture looks more assured than how she was when they were little, so perhaps after she was taken in by Silco. Number 22. Back to the blue little Powder painting in the middle. When you turn it upside down, it looks like it becomes Jinx from the Drawing Reborn scene with Silco in which he immersed her underwater. The painting takes a whole over point of view, like it's not a painting anymore, but looks more like a picture of the real scene. Number 24. On the boards near Powder paintings on the right, there is a leather bag attached that looks a lot like Powder's bag in which she carried the hexstones. Below, there are toy techs that look like her monkey. On the board, there is yet another young Ekko represented staring, and a hand palm is painted in blue and pink color. Number 25. God, I can continue on for days. This is blowing my mind like crazy. This one is a really tricky one though. Turning the picture upside down, and gathering the top of Get Jinxed painting, just under the eyes of the baby toddler Powder with big frightened eyes. Gathering the lighting the flare scene, Ajuna's side head in the big Vi grabbing Powder jaw scene, you'd realize there's a big Jinx monkey from the scene when the hexstone explode. The hexstone explosion giving the whole light up the flare scene in its middle. Dunno if I can explain this as clearly as possible for you to see in the picture, or you just need my eyes. Number 26. Stuck in this painting too, there is once again a negative colored black and white devil Jinx, which is in my opinion a devil version of the Jinx Ekko fought on the bridge. Her face is deadly white, just like her eyes and eyelashes. Looking like the shimmer Jinx we saw against Caitlyn at the end. But one side of her face is layered stripped like she's been taking hits. Number 27. And again some more. Top right corner, between the Vi grabbing Powder's jaw scene, and the wall on the side, there is yet another teenage adult Ekko and Jinx. with Jinx sitting with her arms around her legs, and Ekko's leaning towards her. Whatever the scene is, it's not from Season 1, and implies they've interacted during the time skip since they're represented as adults, but it's only visible after you've watched closely, and changed the contrast and improve colors, to see it more clearly. Number 28. And gosh, I could continue for hours. I found more, but it's too unclear for it to be shown through mere pictures. I'd have to have a better software to unlight it to you guys, and I'm too lazy for that. We've nearly reached 30 already. I guess that's enough to make my point, but there are some I've seen the other day, but couldn't seem to found back to make picture, like the cracking the hexstick scene. Damn, I know I saw that scene in there, with Jinx flying braids dancing around her, while she turns around on her chair. I've seen it the other day, but can't seem to find it back today for the screen cap, so please, if you've ever found more than the ones I'm exposing, please let us know in the comments. Number 29. What I can add is that there are countless firefly representations too, as much as butterflies, the ones Jinx crafted for the explosion, and you might wonder why this might have an importance in the time bomb context. Well, better check my other video to find out, because I have an interesting theory about it that might just give you the answer. Watching these paintings, I feel really frustrated, because the more I found, the more I see. It's like my eyes got used to change its perspective and they kept unraveling more each time. But it's frustrating, because I see parts that make no sense at first, but I see there's something represented there, like a mouth, or an eye, and there are 5 or 6 I didn't mention here cause I didn't found out the whole picture yet. But I know there's Jinx's mouth there, or a part of her face, but I just couldn't match all the pieces together, to form a whole picture. And it's really frustrating, to know they've wanted to paint and hide something in there, and I just have little bits of pieces, and can't find the rest. But I'll keep digging. It's like this wall has become my personal goal to unravel. And seeing all those details about such amazing paintings, being changed and melted into each other over every second of this video, into each of Ekko's memories and rewinds, gives all its sense to the title of that cinematic, and the way Ekko was introduced to the LOL story. This is all a matter of seconds. But you'd have to rewind that video and watch carefully for you to see all that he saw.
They could fix any mistake. I don't need hours or days or years. I only need seconds.